FREEBIES, happy Friday. Here we are again, and it's a bookish one this week, which I'm pleased about. I have read, well, 2.5 books really. So the first one, David will put a photo in here. It's called The Lie Tree by Frances Hardinge, and I've had this in my stash for about 7 years and not read it. I thought it was about time. Frances Hardinge is a well-respected author, especially of children's works, and there are loads of 4- and 5-star reviews on Goodreads for The Lie Tree. So it's historical. It's set in an era where girls were supposed to be seen and not heard. Her father is a prominent biologist stroke, what's the word, entomologist perhaps is the word as well to give him. And they leave where they live in England to go to a remote island under a bit of a cloud regarding his works. Now, I read 45% of this, so I gave it my best shot. Yeah, you can't say that this writer isn't a good writer. It's very nicely put together. It's got a good sense of time and place. The atmosphere all was built really nicely. But, you know, it was so slow and I was just bored. I just wasn't getting what it was about. It felt a tad weird, really. And, yeah, I never got as far as The Lie Tree. So I'd read 45% and, yeah, I was just bored with it. And I thought I'd get in a reading slump if I carried on. So, unfortunately, I DNF'd that one, which is a shame when you've bothered to put 45%. It's a lot of pages, but never mind. It's one of those things. Then I had started the Boleyn Traitor by Phillipa Gregory. I'd forgotten how much I love these really dense, fact-filled historical sagas, really. I used to love Jean Plaidy back in the day, who also writes as Victoria Holt, and Phillipa Gregory. Nowadays, you know, we've got such as Alison Weir, and we've got, I can't think of a name now, that wrote that great big tome, and there's 3 of them. Can't think who it is now. More
Wolf
modern.
Hall.
Yes, Wolf Hall, that's it. I can't think of the author for Wolf Hall. Hilary Mantel, that's it, it's come to me. See, I've not got dementia coming. Apparently, if what you're thinking of comes to you pretty quickly, eventually, you're all right. So I read. Now then, I love the Tudor court. I love anything to do with Henry VIII, his wives, Thomas Cromwell and all that gang, Thomas More. And this was interesting. It was from a different point of view, different perspective of the sister-in-law of Anne Boleyn, Jane Boleyn, who was married to Anne Boleyn's brother. And oh, what a blinking web of intrigue. And we've got all 6 wives in here, and everything that's happening behind the scenes. Quite awful, really, how these young girls were forced to sort of bed ailing Henry VIII, who got septic ulcers all over his legs, and he was obese and he wasn't pleasant at all. In his, you know, probably was when he married Catherine Aragon, he was, you know, quite a catch. But as time went on, and I think these poor girls who were in court, and it was the done thing if they caught his eye and ended up a wife. And we know what happened to, you know, at least a couple of them lost their heads on a whim, you know. And there's a scene in here where the poor Catherine Howard, she's only just 17, and they have to hoist the king into bed you know, so he can jump on her. I'm not sure he got a jump in him, to be honest. I think she'd have to do all the work. Oh my God. And I felt quite sorry for them, really. I never realised just it wasn't good. He was in his 50s then when he married Catherine Howard. She's a young 17-year-old. And yeah, she was done for because she, you know, she fell in love with somebody her own age at court. So a very interesting, different look, really, at Henry VIII and his 6 wives. And she managed right up until Catherine Howard. Jane Boleyn managed to stay in favour as a chief lady in waiting. So, you know, we saw this through a really fresh pair of eyes. And I've loved it. The only thing is with it, you know, you've got to be in the right headspace. You've got to be able to concentrate. That it's full of facts and it's quite, you know, the turnover of wives and people at court is pretty snappy. So you've got to have your wits about you. You've got to concentrate. I gave it 4 stars. I find it hard to give these 5 stars. I've really enjoyed it, but I haven't loved it because it is hard work concentrating. That doesn't mean I haven't enjoyed it and it's been a highly recommended book. But there's just that love element missing because you've got to be in the right headspace. But well worth a read. And then this was one of the buy one half price from Waterstones, my little haul we did there. And this is the latest one by Oyinkan Braithwaite. I read her debut, My Sister the Serial Killer, and I enjoyed that. It was really well written. It was unusual. I gave it 4 stars. This is even better. Even better. It was a 5-star read for me. Cursed Daughters. I've seen a different cover to this. I don't like this cover. I think this cover with the sunglasses and the beach and everything else and quite modern setting trivializes what's going on inside. I've seen a better cover. I don't know if it's the American version or just a different cover here in the UK. Came out in 25 in Great Britain, published in Great Britain 25. I loved it. This is a family saga, as it were, and generations of women from Nigeria that all lived together in a large house that was left by a great-great-grandfather. And it's very much about the women in this family, everything they've been through, what they've put up with, different relationships they've had throughout their time. And then we have, I'm trying to think out without spoiling it, how to say it. We have then one of this family, there's a mother and then her daughter in present day. And of course, the old wives' tales of years gone by is that this family is cursed. All the women are cursed. They can never keep a man. Everything's doom and gloom. And the older generation are still trying to instill that in the youngster. Well, she's 18, she's at university, but you go from her being born up to her going to university, NEE, and she's trying to live her own life and break this curse and not try to be drawn into what the family expectations are. Lovely, beautifully written, well written characters. You get a sense of what these women have been through, and how hard it is to be a woman in present day in that type of culture, to strike out on her own and not be dragged down by people's past mistakes, really. So highly recommend it. I just think the cover's ugly. Right, and then I went to the charity shop. I was thrilled to bits. I got 6 books, but the other 2 I put somewhere else on my shelves I couldn't find. From our local air ambulance, and they sell their paperbacks £1 each. £8 each. Fabulous. And you can go in sometimes, there's a load of rubbish, and other times you can drop on, which is one of these cases. So I was really thrilled to find one of my favourite authors, Lisa Gardner. Crush and Burn, it says. Slurp my tea. It's over hot again here, we can't cope with it. I love Lisa Gardner. She always used to actually comment when I had Jane Catherine on books, my booktube channel. Lisa used to be around quite a lot. I love her books. Thrillers, psychological thrillers, mystery thrillers. She has written quite a backlist. Well, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. There's 17 on here. I really love her writing style. I love the plots. So, my name is Nikki Frank. I'm in hospital, afraid. All I can think about is Vero. I have to save her, but why can't I find her? She's just a little girl. The man by my bed tells me we're married and there is no Vero. He says that 6 months ago I suffered a brain injury, that I have dramatic mood swings, large gaps in my memory, I get angry and drink, all of which explain the car crash that put me here. Now, a Sergeant Wyatt Foster's questions about the accident. He has concerns about my husband and is worried about a missing girl. He would like to know what happened to me, and so would I. This is my life. Watch me crash and burn. Terrifying psychological thriller, says the Observer. I'm really looking forward to. I'll be getting to that soon. What year did she bring this out? She's got loads of accolades from various authors. 2015. So it's one of her good way back lists. Can't go wrong with a Lisa Gardner if you want a decent thriller. And so pleased to get that for £1. Then I got 2 short story collections, which I find just nice in the summer months. Sometimes you don't always want a thick, chunky read. Or these are great, like when I'm reading a big, chunky historical fiction where you've got to concentrate. I can't read it continuously. I have to have a little bit of a break from it. And actually, a collection of short stories is ideal because you can read a couple of short stories, have a break, and then get back to your fact building and your historical. So this is Murder in Midsummer. There's some great authors on here: Dorothy L. Sayers, G.K. Chesterton, Conan Doyle, Ruth Rendell, Ellis Peters. So this is a collection edited by Cecily Gayford, and this is a collection of short stories starting with Ruth Rendell, based in the summer months and with this heat here. Classic mysteries for the holidays, or whether you're sweltering hot in a non-air conditioned UK. Yeah, that should be the title there. So that's that one. It looks brand new. I don't even think it's been read. And then another one which I have seen around. I've seen this around. Champagne and Lemonade by John A.D. Hickling. A collection of short stories of mixed genres for young, middle and old. Just gives you a bit of blurb about 1 or 2 of the stories. Who is the vampire terrorising the neighbourhood from his home at 113A Greenstone Street? I've not heard of this author before. Oh, look, and it's opened at the 133A Greenstone Street. It's quite dense, the writing. Nothing that money can buy. Champagne and Lemonade. It was the start of another day at the Dumpton Hospital. The hospital was built in the 50s, 1954 to be exact, apart from an old building that was built in the Victorian times and was used in the wars. It's still got the original paint on the walls. The part that was built in the 1950s apparently took 6 years to build. I don't know how. It looks like it was just thrown up. Some of the members of staff think it needs a lick of paint, while others think it wants knocking down and rebuilding. Interesting, I'm looking forward to those. Better get my reading glasses on. It's very, very dense, the writing in that. Not sure that's going to be at dead of night reading. They'll all blur into one. Right then, there we have it then. So just to give you a catch up of what I've read this week, and 3 books that I got from the charity shop. What a bargain. You just have to keep a lookout in these charity shops. I think they call them Goodwill, don't you, in America? Because you can drop on some real bargains. And yeah, it's only just 10 minutes walk from where we live. So quite easy to pop in and see what they've got on a regular basis. Okay then, my loves, thank you all for joining me so much this week. If you've not watched any of the crafting videos, go and take a look at what we've been doing this week in our butterfly journals. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care out there, and I'll see you Monday. Bye for now.